What's up everyone, and welcome back to another video here on Bergen Outdoors. And today I'm going to be giving you guys some tree stand tips and tricks for setting up a stand down here in El Dorado. This is my property this is my grandma's property down here in El Dorado. You may notice some of these spots from last year when I was rifle hunting down here, but this year I'm planning on coming down with my bow sometime in November. So stay tuned to that. I know I got big deer here, so we're gonna set up some stands. And I'm going to give you guys some tips and tricks, some stuff I use for properties that I can't manage the whole time. This is 3 hours away from me. So properties that are a ways away from me that I can't get to every weekend, I do a little bit of special stuff in case someone wants to walk on here and try to hunt it themselves. Okay, I just got done setting up the first stand, and I want to give you guys a trail camera tip. So my trail camera, it's a Tactacam. I put it all the way up in the tree there, and my plan is because this property is like 3 hours away from me, I can't monitor it, so I don't know if people are just walking on here. So anyone could just walk on here, I wouldn't know. But that's a cell cam, so I'll get pictures of it. So if someone walks by, I'll get pictures, so I can contact the game warden. They can come out here and figure out who's on here and get them for trespassing. So that's a cell camera for one. So my first tip is, if your property is more than 2 hours away and you can't easily access it, to make sure no one else is on it, I'll get a cell camera, so that way you can get real-time pictures. Another thing I do is, if you're on public land or private land, I would bring a stick here. So this is a climbing stick, and normally I use these screw-in steps there. That's what I use. But this climbing stick acts as my first like 4 or 5 steps to get up here, and then that camera's all the way in that tree. So if someone comes here and they see my tree here, because I cut all these branches down, they come out here and they're looking for my stand. Number one, my stand's not here right now. I just put the steps up, so when I come to hunt, I can just throw it in my stand. Number two, if they see my camera, they're not going to be able to reach it unless I have a climbing stick. Public land or private land that is a ways away, bring a climbing stick and put your trail cameras about 8-9 feet up in the tree. The deer won't see them, and they will be high enough that if a poacher walks by, they will not be able to reach them, and your $100 plus camera will be safe. So here's a tree stand tip for you. So all my tree stands, I use these screw-in steps here because they are cheap. I can get a lot of them, and if someone takes them or I lose them, I'm not going to be upset because I can just go buy more. So a trick that I use is that if you go to try to start these steps by hand under this bark, you're going to be fighting this and fighting this and fighting this, and you're going to screw up your hands. Trust me, I've done it before. So I just take a drill and a drill bit that's a little bit smaller than the screw for this. I'll just take this drill and drill in a little bit to the tree, just past that rough bark, so that way you have a little bit of a pilot hole to start your screw, and then I'll just take it and I'll just screw it in from there. And that's what I'll do all the way up the tree. And it's pretty easy, especially once you start climbing the tree a little bit. You get about halfway up to where you want to put your stand. It's really hard to start those sticks. You don't have that leverage that you normally do. So I just use a little bit of a drill. In case you guys are wondering, this is a 1-inch bit. Like I said, I just take it, I get it barely past the bark into like the meat of the tree, and then I just screw it in from hand from there. It works really well. So there's your tip, DeWalt drill, 1-inch bit, and these steps work amazing for putting up the tree, for climbing the tree to get into your stand. There's a doe. I'm setting up a stand somewhere in here. Just bumped this doe. It's actually a fawn. It's pretty hard to see from here. I'll try to get around it a little bit. Oh, there it goes. Off into those woods. Okay, so here's another one of my tree stand tips. If you're on public land or a property that you can't get to regularly, I'm using a climbing stick here. It's going to be my first 4 steps, my first 4 screw-in steps that I use. And that's because when I prep this tree for my stand, I don't want someone to be able to walk in here and just climb up my sticks and hunt in my stand. So my tip is, use a climbing stick at the very bottom for your first 4 steps. It'll keep people out of your tree stands. Now this tree is a good tree because I hunt out of a tree saddle, so it's about the size of a basketball, so I can spin around it if I need to make a shot. And also behind you guys is a crop field. It's Milo this year, but sometimes it's Milo and beans. They kind of rotate that. So with the Milo, it probably won't be as good of a stand if it was beans, but that's just what I'm kind of doing, is putting this stand right next to a crop field. Like I said, use a climbing stick as your very first step here, and then the screw-in steps for the rest of it, just to keep people out of your stands. Okay guys, so we're across the property now, and I want to show you guys my dad's stand to kind of show off some of his craftsmanship here. I can't get in the stand because we bring a ladder down for the backside to make sure, again, that no one that could be poaching or trespassing can just come and hunt our stands whenever they feel like it. They would have to bring their own ladder out here, which they're probably not going to do. So that's what we do. We just have a ladder back in here that we would use to, you can see the opening right there, just used to climb up with the ladder. So I can't check to see if any branches need cut down, but this thing's pretty solid. He built it a couple years ago. It's mainly his stand that he uses. It's overlooking this, so it's Milo this year, but it's overlooking this Milo field. And then through some of those trees there, it's overlooking this hay field. So that's the spot that he likes to sit. He built that just for him. The bad thing is that in the wintertime, the wind's kind of blowing this way towards his stand. So when he's sitting up there looking out over here, he's getting hit in the face with a lot of cold wind. So he should probably bring like a face covering or something to make sure that like his face doesn't get cold very easily. That's what he said last time we were hunting down here, that his face would be frozen. So that's just interesting. His stand down here, he really likes it. He actually shot his biggest rifle buck out right in this field. He just sat in this tree line with a little bucket, and some does came out, and then a buck came out, and this was all beans that year, which is why I think that this year won't be as good, because it's Milo. That's why I'm trying to hunt during the rut, to try to catch one cruising, but it was all beans. He was sitting over there in his little tiny bucket, and some does came out, and then the buck came out, and then he shot it. Unfortunately, all the tines were broken off of that buck. It had like, I think it had like 2 points after like all the tines were broken off, but it was a nice big heavy 8-pointer. The biggest buck that we've shot down here is that 8-pointer, so I'm hoping to change that this year. That's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed watching a couple tips and tricks that I use to keep people off my stuff when I can't monitor all my stuff like I like to. So if you like my tips, make sure you give the video a thumbs up and share, like, and subscribe.